Hello besties! Are you ready for the ultimate Summerween book list? Get ready to be scared.
You guys want to go see a dead body?
Hi friends, my name is Lexi and welcome back to my channel. Today is a very exciting day because today I will be sharing with you the ultimate Summerween book list. Now, if you are going, Lexi, what the actual is Summerween? Well, sit right back and I will tell you all about it. First of all, Summerween is a state of mind. It is the concept of having not just any summer, but a summer that absolutely terrifies you, okay? Think It by Stephen King, think Stand By Me, think Stranger Things. We're talking about a summer where you might discover that the vacation rental you're in is haunted by a ghost. You're swimming with your friends in the lake and all of a sudden you find that there's a lake monster in there. We are talking summer, but make it scary. And actually, some of my very favorite thrillers and thrillers that I really want to read take place in the summertime. So that's the first thing. It is an aesthetic and it is a state of mind. It is just a scary summer. But the second is that it's actually also a readathon here on YouTube, and the readathon is actually hosted by one of my friends, Gabby. So if you're interested in participating in an actual readathon where for a week you just read scary books, I feel that this list will also help you out for that. And if you want any information on that, I will leave all of the links down below with Gabby's channel and also the dates and stuff. But yeah, that's pretty much it. That's what Summerween is. It's summer for people who love Halloween. That's me. I have to say, I feel very proud of this list. I tried so hard to curate it in very specific categories. Let me tell you the Summerween categories. The first category is those meddling kids, okay? This is the category, like think Stranger Things. We're talking summer vacation with all of your friends and then scary, weird, strange things happen. And you and your besties, you gotta save each other and you gotta save your town. The next category is called Camp Summerween. These are all scary books relating to like summer sleepaway camps. The third one is Vacations from Hell. And these books are following people who go on vacation expecting paradise and instead find terror. And then the final category is called My Family's Got Problems, and it's where scary things happen in a family. Also, I happen to love Summerween because I feel like they're the perfect books to take with you on a vacation or like while you're by a pool or something, because nothing is quite as fun in the summer as like a thriller or a horror, in my opinion. So without further ado, let's go ahead and start with the very first category, which is those meddling kids. Oh, by the way, just as a little disclaimer, this list has books that I have read and also books that I want to read. So it kind of works both ways. It's a curated list of books that I recommend, and also it's a curated list of books that I will be reading this Summerween. Okay, now just a little disclaimer, this is the biggest category. We have the most amount of books in those meddling kids because there are quite a few books with these vibes. The first one is a bonus, so it's not technically part of the list, but I really wanted to talk about it. And the reason it's a bonus is because I don't think that this is a horror or a thriller, but I do actually think that it fits in with the theme, and that is Stephen King's The Body. Have you ever seen the movie Stand By Me? It's about a group of besties who, I think right before school starts again, so it's like the end of summer, they hear that there is a body somewhere in the woods and they decide to go on a fun little boys road trip to find the dead body. So see, it does kind of fit because there is a dead body. It is kind of scary, but also those kids, why are they searching for the body? That is what this is about. It's a tiny little novella by Stephen King. It's a classic. The movie is fantastic. I've never read this. I really want to. And I think it'll be perfect for the summertime, but also the vibes I think are spot on for those meddling kids. The next one is a book that is sci-fi / fantasy, and it is a horror, like it's categorized as horror, but I would say it's one of the least scary books on this list, and it actually happens to be, I think, my favorite book of all time, and that's called The Ocean at the End of the Lane, and this is by Neil Gaiman. Don't be fooled by the size of this. This is like mostly illustrated. The actual book is pretty small. So if you're looking for like a little novella to read by the pool, highly recommend this. This follows a man who goes back to his hometown when one of his parents dies, and he's there for the funeral. And while he's there, he goes to his old childhood bestie's house named Lottie, and he sits by the pond where they used to pretend that the pond was actually the ocean at the end of the world. And while he's sitting there, he starts to reminisce about one summer when he was 8 years old, and he and Lottie were up against some pretty sinister, evil things. It's a fantastic book. It's scary. It explores the complexities of friendship, but it's really beautiful. And I just feel like the vibes of this are perfect if you want to read something that's gonna make you feel really nostalgic, really appreciate friendship, be kind of scared, but also a book that really highlights being in the summertime as a kid. It's really great. The next book I have here is, again, one of my very favorite books of all time. I really like scary books, apparently, and this is called My Best Friend's Exorcism, and this is by Grady Hendrix. If you were gonna read one book from this list, please let it be this book, because this book has it all, okay? So it is very scary, just be warned, like it is a horror, it's an adult horror, and it is terrifying, but the vibes in here are so peak. It takes place in the 80s, and we're following two best friends, and we actually get to see their friendship kind of develop in the very beginning. And then one summer, one of the best friends ends up getting possessed by a demon. And the rest of the book is her bestie trying to do everything she possibly can to exorcise this demon out of her best friend. I love this book for about a million reasons, but at the top of the list is the writing. The dialogue, the writing, the characters, so well crafted. Grady Hendrix is honestly a master at writing a phenomenally written book. Like, I would read anything that he wrote, honestly. The book is so funny. It's also really touching, and it also highlights the power of friendship. It's beautiful, it's disgusting, it's disturbing, it's terrifying, and it's perfect for your Summerween. Next up are three books that I have not read, and I'm very excited to read all of them. The first one is giving me adult Scooby-Doo vibes, and I'm very excited to read it. It's by Edgar Cantero, and it's called Meddling Kids, which is literally why I named the category Meddling Kids. Look at how amazing this is. Does that not just give you the most Stranger Things vibes ever? So this book actually, I don't know if it's like a split timeline or what, but the very first part actually takes place in 1977, and we're following four best friends who are trying to solve the case of like a swamp monster, which I freaking love, okay? Or is it like a lake monster? And they discover that it's a person in a mask, and then he gets arrested, right? So very Scooby-Doo. But then years and years later, in the 90s, they all come together when that man is released, and they realize that it was never him. And actually now the terrors are coming back, and they have to all kind of come together and try to figure out what really happened. And this time they're pretty sure it isn't a man in a mask. And also I think this is dealing with some really sad things too, because I think one of them has sadly passed away. Yeah, it says plagued by night terrors and Peter's tragic death. So the three survivors come back together, try to solve what's actually happening, and figure that there might actually be a real terror at this lake. And then the last two books sound very similar, so I'm gonna talk about both of them briefly. One is a cult classic, and then the other one I actually found from a Reddit post. And as soon as I heard about it, I was like, I think this sounds perfect and I really need to read it. And they are It by Stephen King, and also Summer of Night by Dan Simmons. So let's start with this one. This book is following five boys in the 1960s living out their best summer days, and then all of a sudden their small town is plagued with something evil and sinister. I don't know what that means. I don't know if it's like an actual plague or if it's monsters. I don't know what's happening, but they basically have to band together and save their town, which, like, the vibes I love, right? And then this one, It by Stephen King, again, is a bit of a classic, also very, very chunky. We're following a group of friends in the summer in this little sleepy town of Maine. I guess one summer, like, discover a very, very scary entity, and it feeds off of their fear. And they have to band together to try to, I think, save the town, and then I think they have to come back later as adults. I've never read this book because it honestly sounds absolutely terrifying, but I think this might be the summer that I am brave enough to try reading It by Stephen King. So, and that's it for the Meddling Kids category. Let's go ahead and move on to Camp Summerween, and let's talk about some terrifying camp experiences. So the very first book is a book that I cannot find, but I do own and I have read and I did give 5 stars to, and that is The Last Time I Lied by Riley Sager. Now this particular book is phenomenal. It's got a really, really high rating on Goodreads. A lot of people have read this, and I personally think it is a classic thriller to read in the summer. We're following Emma, and Emma used to go to this sleepaway camp. I feel like it's called Camp Nightingale or something. I don't know. But she used to go to this camp, and then one night in the dead of night during the summertime, her 3 cabin mates all left, and then they were never seen again. This obviously traumatizes her, okay? And then years and years later, she's invited back to the camp when the camp reopens, and she's invited sort of to be like a camp counselor, and she decides, you know what, I'm gonna do it just to kind of let go and process some stuff. And as luck would have it, she's assigned the same cabin where everything went down. But then weird stuff starts happening and girls start disappearing again. I thought this was so good. It's not gonna be for everybody, but let me tell you, it was 5 stars. It was really good. The next one is a book that I read for the last Summerween readathon during the summertime. And I think I gave this one 5 stars too. It's called You're Not Supposed to Die Tonight, and this is by Kaylin Bayron. This is YA, and this was so freaking good. So this camp isn't necessarily like a sleepaway camp so much as teenagers go in the summertime. It's only open for the summer, and it's more like a day experience type thing. All of these teenagers dress up, I think, as people who are going to the camp, and then they pretend they're in a horror movie, right? And so like they all kind of usher the guests through, and then the camp counselor actor people pretend to die. So it's kind of confusing, right? But basically it's like an interactive haunted house, but the interactive haunted house is a summer camp, and teenagers come and they act out the parts while other teenagers scream the whole time. It's an interesting concept. I really like it a lot. The main girl, Charity, she goes back there every single year to be a main camp counselor, and she dresses up, she gets ready, she starts to play her role, and then she realizes that this year the games seem a little bit more real, and the blood seems a little bit more real, and oh my god, are people actually dying when they're not supposed to die? And then the final book is a new book. I think it came out last year, and I really wanted to read it then. It's called The Lake House, and this is by Sarah Beth Durst. Not only do the vibes like give me perfect Summerween vibes, but also like it just sounds phenomenal, okay? So this book is following Claire, and Claire is a bit of a scaredy cat, and girl, you and me both. And she ends up being sent away to this off-the-grid type summer camp where there's not gonna be like any cell service or a bunch of other things. So she goes there, and when she gets there, she arrives late, and she finds that the entire camp has been burned to a crisp to the ground, and that there are no survivors. There are also 2 other girls who come late to the game, and they realize that like everyone is gone. And so now they have to try to make it back to civilization, just the 3 of them. But then they realize actually that whatever burnt down the camp is now hunting them. And that is it for that category. Let's move on to the next category, which is going to be Vacations from Hell. Okay, so just as a disclaimer, I actually have not read any of the books that I'm about to talk about, but I'm very excited to devour them this summer by a pool. The first one is older, and I think it's considered like a classic, and it's called Joyland by Stephen King. Look at the cover of that. Are you kidding me? The book is following Devin, and Devin is a college student, and he's trying to get over his broken heart, and he ends up taking a summer job at this little, is it like a carnival? It's called Joyland, and I don't know if it's a carnival or an amusement park, but yeah, he ends up working there, and while he's working at Joyland, he finds that there's not a lot to be joyful there because murderous things are happening. I'm very excited. I think it'll be really fun, and also, I don't know when this takes place, but I think it takes place in like the 80s or the 70s. Yeah, 73. So that'll be, wow, that was really, really ironic. I just opened it up and it said the year. That was magical. Okay. The next book is a book for all of my midsummer fans, okay? Have I watched that movie? No, because it looks too scary. But for some reason, I do want to read the book. The book is separate from the movie, but again, the vibes are the same, and it's called Loot, and this is by Jennifer Thorne. I mean, come on. Does that not give midsummer vibes? Like, it does to me. So this book is about the magical island of Loot. Loot's residents are blessed with so much prosperity, good health, amazing crops, but in return, one day every 7 years, awful, horrible things happen and people die. Do you see what I'm talking about with like Midsummer? Anyways, I think it might be paranormal stuff, but maybe not. Maybe like it's all sacrificial. However, bad things happen one day every 7 years. And Nina, who's an American and not from the Loot Island, doesn't think anything about it. She just thinks it's like superstitious. She ends up like marrying a guy, I think, who's from Loot. She lives there. And then all of a sudden the day of the reckoning happens and her life turns into hell for a day. Next up is a book that sounds so great. Now, a bunch of these books are a little heavy with the horror elements, right? They're a little bit scarier. This one and the next one, I think, feel a little bit more lighthearted and more like pool thriller type books. So if you are interested in maybe thrillers, but you don't want to be too scared, maybe one of these will be good. The first one is The Main Character, and this is by Jacqueline Goldis. And this, first of all, amazing, absolutely perfect for the summertime. But the premise just sounds so intriguing to me. We're following Genevieve, who is a writer, and Genevieve writes her mysteries and thrillers in very specific kind of unusual ways in which she likes to hire people to kind of act out what she thinks the characters will do, and then she records all of the conversations and everything, right? Which I think is really fascinating. And she ends up meeting a woman named Rory, and she's like, I think you'll be perfect for the main character, so I would like to invite you to this all-paid trip. We're gonna be on a train ride going up to Italy, like on the coast of Italy, and you're just basically going to be acting like my main character and I'm gonna be taking notes. And Rory's like, that sounds great. I will absolutely take a free trip to Italy. And honestly, who could blame you, Rory, you know? But then once Rory is on the train, she recognizes that a couple of the other passengers who were also invited are like part of her family. Weird stuff starts happening, like secrets are getting leaked, tension is mounting, and like Rory feels like the author is maybe going a little too far and now she wants to get off the train. I think it's gonna be really, really good. Like the premise sounds so juicy to me. They're trapped on a train, but they're going up the coast to Italy and like bad stuff is happening. It just sounds really, really unique. And I think like the perfect book to read by a pool. And then the last book is also a new release. This just came out this year and it's called The Fury, and this is by Alex Michaelides or Michaelides. And this is a book about, I think, a group of friends who all go with their celebrity socialite friend off to a Greek island. And then once they're there, somebody is murdered. Actually, potentially multiple people are murdered, and they have to figure out who did it. It sounds great. Like, think Mamma Mia, but except bloody. And now let's go on to the final category, which is My Family's Got Problems. Well, welcome to one of the most interesting categories on this list, My Family's Got Problems. Let's go ahead and jump in with a family that is seriously messed up with My Lovely Wife by Samantha Downing. This is a book that I devoured recently, gave 5 stars to, was blown away with. This thriller is following a couple. So it's a husband and a wife. They've got 2 kids. They live in suburbia. From the outside, they seem normal, but actually they both kill people together as like a pastime. I don't even know. As the book progresses, the main character starts to think that his wife might be keeping things from him, and that scares him. So we're just following what happens, what transpires, and their shenanigans as a couple. And I say shenanigans loosely because honestly, I don't think that that sounds like a good hobby. The next one is actually a book that I think one of my patrons has been reading for a bit. It caught my attention, and then I looked it up while I was at Barnes & Noble, and I was like, this book sounds so good. So I bought it. This is by Jennifer Thorne, and it's called Diavola? I hope I'm saying that right. Look at the, I mean, come on. So this book is following a family, and for the summer vacation, they decide they're all going to rent a villa together. And while they are there, dark, scary, unsettling things start to happen. Is the villa haunted? Is something else going on? Read to find out. Like, I don't know actually, so maybe. But I like the concept of this because apparently the family is also kind of dysfunctional, and it's supposed to be kind of funny as well as terrifying. And also, I think it is said on the back that this is supposed to be sort of like a gothic Victorian vacation read. That just sounds so cool. Anyways, I think it'll be great, and I think it'll be terrifying, and I'm very excited. Next up is a book that is a little bit polarizing, and it's been out for a while, but I gave it 5 stars. It's actually one of my very favorite books of all time, and I think it fits in perfectly with the category. And it's called We Were Liars by E. Lockhart. This book is following Cadence, and Cadence, her family's pretty wealthy, okay? They're pretty rich. Own their own island rich. And every single summer, Cadence and her mom go to the island with her her aunts and her cousins and her grandparents, and they all spend the summer together. And she and her cousins all call themselves the Liars. And this is about the summer that she goes back there and she feels that the Liars are keeping some secrets from her. If you love suspenseful, dramatic, well-paced things, you'll love this book. It's also very short. I feel like this would be super great to read by a pool or something. I think it's worth the read. 5 stars, one of my favorite books of all time. I loved it. The next one is called Malice House, and this is by Megan Shepherd. And this book, I believe, is considered to be a horror. This book is following Haven, and Haven goes to her father's old house by these like creepy cliffs or whatever. She is trying to sort through his things because he has just passed away. And while she's sorting through his things, she finds a manuscript about monsters. Her dad was a writer and she is an illustrator. And to kind of feel bonded towards her dad, she decides to read his manuscript that was never published and to illustrate these monsters based on the description. But then some scary stuff happens when she starts to do that, and it seems like certain groups might be after her now. I don't know anything else, I really don't, but it's very intriguing with the idea of a possible secret society, about these monsters. I think it might be paranormal, but I'm not sure. And it just sounds really great. Like, I feel like the premise feels very atmospheric and perfect for Summerween. And then the final book I have here just came out, and it's definitely perfect for this category because it's called Home is Where the Bodies Are. This is by Geneva Rose. And like, this family does kind of sound messed up. We're following siblings who are coming together, I think, when one or both of their parents pass away. While they are together, they discover some home videotapes and they decide to start watching them, and they accidentally discover their parents, I think, murdering a person on videotape. And now they have to figure out what to do with this. The premise sounds really good. The cover looks iconic, and it's been getting a lot of really great reviews. This just came out very recently. I think it's gonna be perfect for the summertime. Again, a great length. And yeah, I'm very excited to read Home is Where the Bodies Are. Well, there you have it, you guys. Those are all of the books for the ultimate Summerween reading book list. Hopefully you found some thrillers or some horror or mystery that sounds good to you that you can read. Whether you're like staying at home and doing the ultimate staycation this summer, or you are traveling. Yeah, I just love a scary little book in the summertime. And I have 2 questions of the day. The first question of the day is, do you have a thriller or scary book recommendation for me? Let me know down below in the comments. But if you don't read scary books, or you don't have a recommendation that you can think of right at the second question of the day is this: what is your favorite part of summertime? Let me know. And the emoji of the day is the axe, okay? A huge thank you to all of my patrons over at Fox and Wood. Thank you so much for all of your support, especially the Ink and Quill Club members, who are all the executive producers of every single video that I create. And I think that's it, you guys. Thank you so much for watching. I love you so much. And until next time, my scary little book lovers, keep your head in the clouds and your heart in a book, and I will chat with you very soon. Bye!